Today I want to take a look at how to detect outages for SharePoint Online and M365. Here we're taking a look at a SharePoint Online root site and also taking a look at Azure Automation Runbooks. And the goal would be to create an alert that if there's an outage to let us know quickly. The outage detection for SharePoint Online could be done very simply with opening the home page of a couple of key URLs. So we're going to take a look at some PowerShell coding for how to detect and alert outages. So here we are in Visual Studio Code taking a look at PowerShell, and we can go ahead and put down the name of a tenant. We can do the SharePoint Online URL. We can do the OneDrive URL. And we can do the admin URL. All of those are easy derivatives of the tenant name. So we'll go ahead and modify each, putting in $tenant as a placeholder with the -my and the -admin suffixes. So really there's three key URLs that we'll be tracking: -my, -admin, and of course .sharepoint.com. Each of these can be tracked independently, and if any are unable to authenticate correctly, we would like to get an alert. So let's go ahead and see how we can go about doing that. From previous postings, you'll probably remember I'm a big fan of the client ID app secret and tenant registration with app-reg-new. So we're going to go over to the admin endpoint underscore layouts, and we're going to open up @reg-new. Yes. And we'll also get an authentication redirect. There we go. So that's app-reg-new and then app invite. This is going to create a client ID and secret that are good for the whole tenant. Coming over to Medium, there's a really good blog post about some of the permission XML manifest that we'd want to use. This is the one that is full control for a tenant. You know, in this particular scenario, I don't really think we need full control because we're not modifying data, we're monitoring. So you can do full control, you can do manage, query, ignore, there's read, a couple different permissions. 99% of the time I'm coming in doing full control for administrative work, something they can modify, but in this case, we're actually going to set it to read. And we're going to register an app, generate an ID, generate a secret, give it a localhost, and over here, we're going to give it a name. Down detect SPO can be our name. Down detect SPO can be the name of our PowerShell, and we're matching our naming patterns. So we'll go ahead and generate that. Client ID and secret have been successfully generated. Here's our configuration. We'll put a comment into PowerShell with the variables that we need. And we'll take the client ID over here. We'll do a lookup and go ahead and grant permissions at the tenant level. Hit create, hit trust. And by the way, all of this is happening on the admin endpoint. The admin endpoint makes it global so that it can affect all URLs. Excellent. So now that we have a client ID app secret, we can authenticate into SharePoint Online. So this will be our connect PNP Online commandlet. There's our app ID app secret. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and modify, bring these up to here, and we'll do $app ID. Well, let's change that actually. Client ID. Yes. And $client secret. That's right. Very good. Yep. Client ID and client secret. Good, good. All right, and with all of those saved, we can go ahead and connect to PNP Online and do get PNP Web, and that's going to allow us to make a standard connection. And coming over here to execute our code, We can see warning, warning ignore. That, you know what? We're going to add that to our code. We're going to add warning ignore on this particular one to get the output a little more clean. Simple, simple is good. So here we're making a connection. It echoes back that it's successful. We get PNP web, authenticate, connect PNP. Well, yes, yes, given URL, given URL. So this is going to be a new function. It's going to be called test URL. And we'll feed in a particular URL. We'll do the connection, echo back get. Yes, that's all helpful. And over here, we'll modify that to URL. Yes, 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 yes. OneDrive admin, SharePoint. Okay, so we have a couple of these. And yes. I'm going to modify the top code, and we're going to make an array out of this for the sake of looping. So we'll go ahead and modify, make that into an array. We'll bring in multiple URLs. There we go. Get rid of admin OneDrive. Yes. SPO admin and OneDrive endpoint URLs. There we are. So monitor URLs, testing all those. Very good. For each, this will be test URL, and $_ is fine. That can go ahead and invoke. And now we have a way of testing all 3 URLs. So we're making 3 connections, we're getting back 3 different responses, and verifying that the system is online and available. And coming back to PowerShell, we can do an error.count, and this will be the test results for success, and verify no PowerShell runtime errors. So by tracking the PowerShell $error count and the result object having successful data, we're able to take this to the next level, that we are getting back data and we're making a successful connection to SharePoint Online. 3 different endpoints, SPO main, my, and admin. 3 different URLs, each coming back with the word okay, okay, okay. They all tested successful. Now, if that did not happen for some reason, we want exception handling and to send out an alert and to go ahead and make that known for the support teams. So for that, we're going to expand our for each loop. And we're going to say $monitor URLs. We'll make it singular instead of plural. Bring that part over for the coding. Come here. Monitor URL, test monitor URL. That's right. Yes. This will be loop all. Yes. And here we can add testing monitor URL dot dot dot. Yes. And then the OK error coming back for each. That we can handle. Very good. Very good. And after testing each, if there's an exception, then we want to be able to process that by sending an alert. So in this case, we'll say else error, and we'll say send email alert with PNP. And yes, PowerShell error details. That's correct. Down detector, which URL. The body has the error message. And we're going to do this a little bit different. This is going to be send PNP mail. And with send PNP mail, we want to provide a subject. We want to provide a recipient. We want to provide a body. Yes. And the from address is optional parameter because it's going to send it from the service account. So let's go ahead and save those. There's the subject. We'll put a $2 on this. And up here, I'll come all the way to the top and make that one of the configuration variables. $2 equals. And this we could modify. That's right. There's the emails for a support team. So we have a recipient. We have the alert. Down detect SPO, which URL. Yes, that can be in the subject line. And yes, and there's the error with details. Right. That's correct. That's correct. Yes. All right, so there's the body, there's the subject, and the subject line is going to have the URL that failed the testing. So this is a script that can check all three endpoints. It can check the main SharePoint Online, it can check the OneDrive My Site, and it can check the Admin Center. So we're actually using the tenant name to check three different endpoints. So this is OneDrive with the My. There's Admin Center with the -admin. And of course, we have the main SharePoint Online with the tenant name and DNS. So there's three endpoints we're checking. We're using client ID secret. We test for the web. If we cannot get the web or the error count in executing this is higher than 0, then we'll go ahead and kick off an email using send PNP mail. This provides us a facility for monitoring and detecting outages. So here we are running the script. It's giving back three URLs and testing OK 3 times. The final part of this would be to schedule it as an automation account runbook. So here we'll make a new resource group and going into Azure, actually from the marketplace, you may want to see this. Search for the word automation, pick the first one with the gear icon. That's how we make automation accounts and set up a new plan for it. Resource group. Yes, automation account can be named down detect SPO, matching with the name of our project. So we give it a name, review, create, and create. Be fast. So here we can go to the resource. Yes, and there's runbooks. These are the default ones that come with creation of a new automation account. We don't really need them, so I will open and delete. Just as a way of simplifying the configurations, open and delete. So we deleted two runbooks that come by default. Over in modules, we're going to want to search for PNP PowerShell. Yeah, we can add module here from the gallery. Runtime version 5.1 PNP. Click here to browse. Yes, we can do it. PNP PowerShell. There it is. Very good. 5.1. So I'm selecting 5.1 for more compatibility. That import is in progress. For the runbook itself, we're going to make one same name as our PS1. So we're going to match the name of our PowerShell file in creating the runbook, bring that into description, create an automation account. For the code that goes inside the automation account, we pick up all of our PS1 from our local development and publish. Very good. And then we come over here to schedules. We add a schedule. What if I run settings, link to a schedule in Runbook? We don't have any schedules because we just created this. And for name of schedule, yes, we'll make it recurring. This has every 1 hour with no expiration. I would like to run it more frequently. So one of the limitations we run into with runbooks in automation is that the tightest schedule is every 1 hour. That's not really going to work for what we're trying to do here. So we'll see that our runbook has no schedule, but it does have the code itself, which is good. Yes, edit in portal. There it is. Revert to published. Very good. Okay, good. I like it. We can even start it, run it, and check the outputs to make sure that it runs successful. But what we're going to want is Logic App for this to run faster. Logic App can do tighter scheduling. So we'll go back over to the root of Azure and we'll be making Logic App. So here is the queued and running, doing our test job. Yes, there it goes. The runbook. So while this is importing, back over to the main menus, we can do a create. Yeah, and we'll create a new resource, and this one's going to be named Logic App. Yes, Logic App, there it is with the two green boxes for the icon. Resource group will use the same. LA for Logic App, region is fine, plan is standard, consumption, zone redundancy is disabled. This is more for low workloads, development, test cases, Logic App create, submitting deployment, deploying now, deployment complete, so we can go to resource. And within the Logic App Designer, this is where we can schedule runbooks tighter than every 1 hour. So key use case, we can say recurrence, and this can be scheduled a lot of different ways, but here you have minute and second level frequency, which is incredible. So we can add every 2 minutes, we can add an action, and this is going to go to running runbooks, execution of runbooks. All right, here we say Azure automation, create a job, get a status of a job. We're going to say create a job. Yes, OAuth default. Inner name for the connection. That's correct. We'll do sign in. And we will need the tenant ID of our domain. So let me go get the tenant ID. Yes, here in the Azure Active Directory panel, we have the tenant ID number as part of Azure Active Directory. So we will copy that into Logic App Designer and finish the sign in. Here's our sign in process. Very good. Subscription, only have one. Resource group, automation account. There's the detect SPO. Wait for the job. We can say yes to make the serial. There are the ability to do parameters. We're not really going to need it here because this is simply start job. Yes, let me see. Runbook name. We will need a parameter. We are going to give it the name of the runbook. It has a drop-down menu. So for parameters, we will need one parameter. It's the name of the runbook, and that's provided via drop-down. So this will create a job. We can save it, and this will execute every 2 minutes. So the reason that we're going to Logic Apps is to get the tighter scheduling of 2 minutes instead of waiting every 1 hour. The action step of create job will take in both the automation account and the runbook name that we would like to execute. So here we can go ahead and run, and the designer is going to refresh. It's checking the trigger for new data. Yes, and just like Power Automate or MS Flow, you have this visual designer with Logic App, and it's showing the number of seconds. There's a pending circle as it's running and executing. In our other tab, the module finished. So the module is now available, runtime 7.2. Good news. Runbooks, here we are. We now see 2 entries uncompleted. And Logic App is showing that it created the job. Job completed, has tracking ID numbers, very detailed. The automation account does show the job running twice and completing. If I drill into it, there is one issue with the connect and get PNP Online. I believe that's because I did not import the commands prior to using them. So there is one thing we need to be doing differently here. Import PNP PowerShell. Import module PNP PowerShell. So we're going to modify the code slightly, bring that over to Runbook, and we'll come back up to Runbook and edit in portal. We'll bring those together, save and publish. Yes. So we have a third line item that's now queued. Okay. For PowerShell PNP, I'm currently running the local version 1.12 and getting an error message from Azure. So what we're going to do is take this and send to a zip file, and we're going to make our own 1.12. That's the version that I'm running locally. In browsing the gallery, it takes the latest. I'm getting an error message. So here we're going to browse 1.12. Okay. So here we're uploading the zip file, 1.12 name. This is going to be pnp.powershell for the name. 1.12 is simply the release version. So PNP PowerShell. Uh, so now with loading our custom module, we're able to see all activities and commands. We're able to see the runtime version 5.1 and the module version of 1.12. This is by uploading a zip file. With that in place, if we come back over to our runbook and having the new module, we can go ahead and start and execute a new instance, and we'll monitor for completion. And now with our updated module running version 1.12 for PowerShell 5.1 compatibility, we can see a successful run with the output of testing each of the 3 URLs. And these are all 3 of our URLs being monitored, and we see all success. So we're able to verify the health of our environment with a 2-minute interval by using Logic App Designer. And then if exceptions occur, receive an email alert letting the admin team know to go check the system. This is how we can implement monitoring for SharePoint Online using PowerShell PNP, Azure Runbook, and also Logic App Designer to gain the tight frequency of a 2-minute interval. Thank you for watching.